Well, happy Friday. It's a beautiful snowy day here in Salt Lake City. We've got 8 inches in my backyard, actually. And I do live, anyone that knows Salt Lake, I live in the mouth of Big Cottonwood Canyon, so the ski season is upon us. So for those that haven't tuned into the Spatial-Next Friday talk, I generally have conversations around the advancing world of geospatial. That includes GIS, and it's both a technology and a business conversation. And I call it Geospatial Crossing the Chasm. So today's topic is, the title of today's talk is, why has GIS not crossed the chasm to wider enterprise adoption? So as we do, let's dig in. So let me give you my perspective on where I see GIS today, today's reality. I see GIS as a departmental based solution, not an enterprise solution. So I see it being sold into those departments where there is folks that understand GIS, its value, and how to work with GIS. And largely that's the mapping department. The question has increasingly been over the years, how do we move GIS out of the GIS department to widen it? In other words, to go from a departmental solution to an enterprise solution. And the attempts, there have been a number of focused attempts at widening it, and it's met with obstacles. Let me give you again my perspective on this, and I've been looking and thinking about this for many years, actually for 25 years if I was aging myself. There's a lot of work being done to evangelize GIS, that is, explain what we do and our value. And I often hear from GIS people when they talk to friends, relatives, people who are not in the GIS world, what they do, and they struggle to actually explain their work day to day. That applies within organizations as well when one goes outside of the GIS department. We often resort to talking maps. That's generally where we fall back to, the value of maps. And I hear it all the time, and anyone that's listened to my talks in the past will know I'm not a great fan of talking maps, but that's where we fall back to. And quite often, we actually, our ultimate goal is, in trying to get GIS out of the GIS department into the enterprise, is to build an enterprise geospatial strategy. And I listened to some interesting talks this week around that topic, which I agree with, but I'm going to give a different perspective in this talk. So let's talk enterprise geospatial strategy. The approach that folks take that try and build these are really to talk to business leaders, to talk to C-level executives, and to get a better understanding of their world. And within those conversations, there's an effort to tease out problems. And in often cases, and I won't put words into the mouths of people that do this stuff, but my sense is they're always trying to see where a map fits in to solve the problem. In some ways, and I won't be harsh on this, that approach feels like a solution looking for a problem. With GIS at the center of that strategy. So again, I'll come back to that in a moment, but we're looking to build a strategy with GIS at the center. So I'm going to propose in this talk a slightly different approach. I'm going to suggest that people don't understand GIS, so we need to stop talking about it. I'm also going to suggest that maps are like graphs. They're simply an output. We need to stop focusing on them. We get maps, but if we're talking to C-level executives, they really don't get the value of maps. What I'm going to propose is we start with business tools and work backwards from there. So let me explain what I mean by that. If we talk about enterprise asset management and GIS as a use case, let's start thinking about so if we think about a system like SAP or Maximo, which are business systems, they have within those asset managements. And part of those asset management systems are work orders. Now, work orders are designed for staff that go out in the field, fix things. They'll go out and fix a valve. So they'll get where they need to go to, they'll get the work that needs to be done, and they'll go out and do that work. So that's very much a business workflow. But if one talks to folks that are just focused on work orders, and today we're now using mobile devices in place of paper, not all the time, but mobile devices are now being used to share that information on what the person needs to do and what that person has done, report back into the system. GIS really gives the where of the asset in real terms is XY, this is where it's located. It also gives context on what's around it, and it also provides the connection piece of that. So again, if we think about in the utility world, a valve is connected to a pipe, is connected to, it's important to understand those connections between assets. So GIS brings that to the conversation. And I've worked in the EAM world and GIS in the past. When one talks to folks that are using EAM work order systems, they often are looking for a map, context and connections. So what's missing in their workflows is GIS. And you'll notice I started by describing that use case from the work of the person in the field with the work order, the business workflow. And we talk backwards into GIS. And I'll mention it briefly, but within my world at 𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐸𝐻, we've actually built a product called 𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸, which is a mobile product, which is an interface between GIS, ArcGIS, and EAM systems. So it's a single interface to get access to those things. So it's a complementary, synergistic approach to the world of work orders. And again, the system, the application talks into both SAP and other EAM systems and into ArcGIS. So I give that as an example of a workflow which is enriched and enabled by GIS, starting from a work order. So what I'm going to propose is we start thinking about an enterprise spatial integration strategy. And again, I use that spatial word cautiously, but if we're going to engage with folks at C-level who are already using business tools in SAP or Salesforce or IBM or the other, some of the other business systems, we need to start there. We need to understand those workflows and integrate GIS into those existing business workflows. So again, to go back to what I said earlier, we don't start with GIS and evangelize GIS. We look at the workflows already in place within the business systems that folks at the C-level, and not just at the C-level, folks in the field that are using systems that come out of these business systems. And we integrate GIS and geospatial into those systems. So it's a slightly different workflow. It's a slightly different approach to strategy building. But to me, if we're going to engage with folks that don't understand the value of geospatial and GIS, we need to start with the stuff they do understand and backfill with the gaps in the work that they're doing currently, i.e. the workflows they're currently using. Where can we find those gaps where a map or geospatial data can actually enhance, enrich, make the experience better? So my name is Matt Sheehan. I work at 𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐸𝐸. You can contact me at that email address, matt.sheehan@𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐸𝐸.com. You can find me on social media at @GeoMattSheehan. And I always finish with this. I always welcome your feedback. If you think I'm wrong, if you think I'm right, if you want to give me other use cases. And I will in future talks be talking more about these sort of integrations with GIS within the business world and additional use cases there. So have a lovely weekend. I might be sneaking up skiing this weekend, and anyone that's in the west that's got snow, have a great ski weekend. Anyone that's in the sunshine, enjoy the sunshine, because we're blooming cold here, and we'll talk again next week. Thanks for listening and watching.